Tortoise are an influential post-rock band formed in 1990 in Chicago. They have 2 bassists, 3 percussionists, and have released 7 studio albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the first album by Tortoise, and it's my first listen to them. My first impression I had of this album, apart from listening to it, is that I don't think the cover art is very good. Let's move on to the music, though. So it's instrumental, with occasional bits of processed speech, and it's definitely in the experimental area. It's somewhat rock, but actually I felt like it was more like krautrock than anything. So there's kind of experimental bits, there's groove-based bits, there's bits that are about soundscapes. Some of it's fairly musical, but some of it's more noise or atmospheric type stuff going on. Some of it has some quite complex rhythms and time signatures going on, and it's quite precise in the way that it's done. It made me think that it's kind of leaning towards the math rock kind of thing, which is about precise and accuracy and complexity. There's quite an odd kind of feel and atmosphere to it. So I would say if it was made 20 years earlier, so that would have been 1974, then it might have been labelled as prog rock. Prog rock moved on, and so I think this is more in the kind of math rock, and a lot of people call it post rock. Apparently, they're one of the founding acts of post rock. So who am I to argue against that? But predominantly, the instruments here there are 2 basses, which is interesting and unusual. And often they use different sounds to each other and different feels, so as they complement each other. But there's certainly one track, Spiderwebbed, where it's more kind of, we've got the same sound and they're intertwining, and it's kind of creates this complex feel to it. There's also percussion. There's usually drums, but not always. And then there are other tuned percussion things, so like marimbas and stuff like that. And then kind of almost in the background, there's little bits of twiddly electronic sounds as well, to just kind of add a little bit of decoration, I would say, in there. Picking on a couple of tracks, the track called Raikuda, I have no idea why it's called Raikuda, is quite groovy and gets a good groove going. The track Fly Rod, which is the last but one, is quite noise-based. And there's quite a bit of variety going on here. So a lot of things that are kind of pushing the boundaries tend to be in some way jarring or abrasive or difficult. And I didn't find it to be any of those. I found it interesting, but definitely unusual. So it's my kind of strange. I really liked it, actually. I found it surprisingly mellow to listen to. And I think if you're up for stuff that is a bit unusual, but want something that's unusual for background, then it's good for that because of the predominance of it being instrumental rather than having words in it. It won't be for everybody. Some people will find it pretentious, I would think. Some people will find it actually boring. But I didn't find it either of those things. I found it quite engaging. So I like this album. And as always, I would like to invite you to tell me what you think of this album. So please do so by leaving a comment. And that's it from me for now.